to the Bella Vista Gardening Program and to all of our viewers over Northwest Arkansas. I'm Char Brunje, your host for today, and my guest is Becky Christenson, and she's an artist in Northwest Arkansas. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her first. Becky is very versatile in her subject as well as medium, creating sculptures, paintings, and other original works. Her studio and gallery is called Art, and it's in Bentonville on 14th Street. The inspiration that connects her diverse medium and techniques comes from nature. She views this on her property in Arkansas. Becky is the past president of the Associated Artists of Philbrook Art Museum in Tulsa, and that, of course, is in Oklahoma. She has taught private lessons since 1996. Becky is currently an artist in residence in the Illinois Watershed Learning Center in Cave Springs, Arkansas, and has created and installed several public sculptures. Her art can be viewed at artbybeckychristensen.com. So welcome, Becky. Tell us a little bit about what you have here. What inspired you to become an artist?
Well, I've always done art, and nature is where I get most of my inspiration, but never really was a full-time artist until an incident happened. 20 years ago, my husband and I got married, and we were being taken to the Fayetteville airport at that time. That was the airport you used here. We were being driven by my mom and dad to the airport to go on our honeymoon. And we had a car accident, and my father died. And I had a concussion. I was sitting right behind him, just such a short distance, and I lived, obviously. Thank goodness. But it really made me acutely aware of life being short, and that I decided just to make every day a honeymoon by doing what I love to do, and went into art full time. So I went back to college and got a graphic design degree, took a lot of art courses. I got reintroduced to clay in a couple of clay classes, and I just kept getting more involved, and so now I paint and sculpt, and I opened the studio and gallery in Bentonville, and have been open 7 years. So
wonderful. Okay, now tell us about some of these pieces that you brought with you today.
This piece is a elephant ear leaf, and I have a slab roller where I can take my clay and make any thickness I want, rolling it through a slab, and it has a beautiful glaze on it. It's from an actual leaf, so the texture and the veins are there, and it could be used as just a decoration. It could be set on a little easel, and it could be hung from a easel type thing and put on the wall.
Very versatile.
So yeah, a lot you could do with that.
And realistic looking.
This is obviously inspired by a flower, but could be a little candy dish, a soap dish, many uses for it. It could also be displayed the same way with an easel hanging up.
And you make your items so realistic, so natural.
This is made from porcelain clay. I just hand did the veining on this and made the flower up. There's no flower that actually looks like this. It's just something that kind of appeared as a shape I wanted to make.
Beautiful.
And Char, this is a butterfly puddling dish. And butterflies like to get minerals from the ground. You might see them, it's called puddling, hanging out where there's a lot of soil. You can put a soil mixture in here, and butterflies like the items that are in Gatorade for
Really?
that kind of power drink.
That's interesting.
And it helps them to reproduce by getting these minerals. And it was important to me to make these because it's some little thing I can do because the butterflies are declining. And growing milkweed is another thing that is really good to do for butterflies. The monarchs have to have
our
that.
garden club has advocated that.
Right. So this is a way that you can put a little dish in your garden and keep it just moist for the butterflies.
Okay.
This piece is takes a long time to make these items. This is unglazed porcelain. It kind of reminds me of Queen Anne's lace.
Yes,
However, that's not what I had in mind when I made it. I just took a shape and made it, and you can see there's a lot of little detail in each one of those little stems. But it does kind of remind you of Queen Anne's lace.
Yes, it does.
And I make these where they can be tabletop pieces. I make them where there's 3, a small, medium, and large size. And they can also be hung if they, there's a hole in the back for hanging on these.
Could these be placed outside? Do you think they could?
The unglazed porcelain, yes, it should be able to be outside.
Might look nice in the garden.
It depends on what clay body I use, whether it's fitting for outside or not. So obviously the butterfly puddling dish is okay for outside.
Okay.
This is not necessarily inspired by nature, but it is for nature because it's a vase. And there's holes inside of it, so that it really helps you to put your flowers in and help them stand up, because they all have their little compartments for standing up. I like to use a lot of texture in my pieces, so it's got texture, and many times I'll show you a piece, an image here in a little bit where I actually used nature to impress in the clay, and explain that in a minute. And then the garden globe here, this piece is a globe that has leaves on it, and it's just a beautiful piece that will work well outside. And I used actual leaves to roll out on the slab roller and then applied them to the clay there. The way you make a ball like that would probably be something you wouldn't guess.
How do you do it?
Blow up a balloon.
Oh.
And I take my clay and wrap it around, and you have to take little tucks and fit it together, and it has to have a hole in it. It can't be completely enclosed, because if you fired it with it completely enclosed, it would blow up because of the steam that would escape. So now we can go on to some images if you want to.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Some things, because
Explain.
these are a little too big, some of these, to have brought to this, and they're permanent installations, some of them. So this first one is an image of a fireplace surround, an Art Nouveau style. And I made that all as one piece and then cut it up and installed it. And the piece of tile work in front of the fireplace surround, that is an image that I created in a program called Illustrator. I designed it on the computer, in that program.
Wonderful.
And then I printed it out, the life size, and laid it on top of my clay to draw the design on it, and then that's kind of how I made that. And then the next image, this is the one I was talking about that has nature actually impressed in the clay. If you see the little round shapes on this lady, I call her Mother Nature. Well, that was an acorn that I found outside, and I pushed it in the clay, and then there are little places where I took the side of the acorn and just rolled it and created a texture. Textures that you get from nature like that, you can't just make, really. So it's interesting. And then the large shapes that are the big colors,
Yes.
I actually took clay and impressed it into a rock with that shape. That is inspired by a calla lily, this sculpture. It's
very beautiful.
Yeah, it's a clay piece that this piece is about 2 feet tall. It's hard to tell from the picture,
No.
the size of it. Okay, this is definitely inspired by nature and for nature, for the birds. And that's the name of the title of it, actually. It's called For the Birds.
For the Birds.
It has a bird bath at the bottom, hummingbird feeder and bird seed feeder on those funky little arms, and then a birdhouse at the top. It kind of reminds me of a Dr. Seuss type of thing,
Oh, it
although I
does.
wasn't thinking of that
It
when I made
does.
it. But I have
I
a lot
like
of
it.
fun making that.
Oh.
It's actually made where you can put cement in the ground with a metal pole, and there's a hole all the way running up through it, so it'll
And
make
it would be very durable then.
right, and make a totem. And this piece is called Sensual. It's just, you know, there's nothing boxy, square in nature. We have more curves and flowing lines in nature, and so that's kind of what inspired that.
And you can see the flowing lines there, definitely.
This is the checkout counter at my art studio.
Oh, I like that. I like the
And
colors.
I have a lot of ponds. We have some land that has ponds on it. I have a pond behind art. I have a pond at my home. And I love growing water lilies and lotus, and I love the frogs and, you know, all the nature that comes when you have a pond. And so that's what inspired this piece. And it's this piece is a 7-foot tall sculpture that's out in front of my studio. And it's like water flowing down.
Okay.
That's what it reminds me of.
It definitely looks like that.
This is another Mother Nature piece that's out installed in front of my studio. And it's made similar to the other one. This is a lady, I think there's another image of her, yes. She has no clothes on, but she's clothed in flowers and leaves.
Right.
So these are some calla lilies on the back of her. And she's life-size.
I have to come and see that one.
She's also in front of my studio, gallery. Okay, that may be the end of those. So,
Okay. As we continue, Becky, tell us about how your project with the Illinois River Watershed Learning Project started.
well, I met Delia Hawk. She's the director at the Illinois River Watershed Partnership. And I met her at a garden club meeting.
Wonderful.
She was one of the speakers. And she began talking to me about what they were doing there in Cave Springs and in the watershed, and asked me if I wouldn't be interested in being involved in helping make a cave. There is a cave in Cave Springs,
Right.
and there's a lake from the water that comes out of the cave, and the watershed partnership owns the property there. I believe it's 23 acres, and it's just a beautiful area, and it's a nice way to teach children and adults about protecting our water quality. And in the cave, there's a blind cavefish, and the largest population of cavefish that has been found anywhere.
Oh, interesting.
And so we want to protect it. And then there's the gray bats that are endangered. So you can't go in the cave. And Delia wanted a way to teach children about caves and the animals and plants and things that live inside and outside of caves, and wanted a place where children could experience the cave since they cannot go in the real cave. So they were able to purchase a church in Cave Springs and turn it into a learning center. And in the sanctuary of that center, I have built a cave. Various different sculpting materials, and so we're going to see some images here, but of some other sculptures I've done and some of the cave as well. But we got a grant from the Arkansas Natural Heritage Commission
Wonderful.
for me to do this work, and it was also from the Arkansas Arts Council. So they were generous enough to let us do the cave, and
now we're going to see some
yeah.
images.
Now this is one of the first large public sculptures that I did. It's at the Benton County School of the Arts in Rogers.
Okay.
And this is a bird bath.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's very beautiful.
It's a kind of funny story. A man bought the bird bath from me for his neighbor because his cat, the man's cats, broke his neighbor's bird bath.
Oh, and what a
And
beautiful
so
one.
I was to replicate and sculpt it just like the one that was broken.
Oh, difficult? Was
Yes,
it difficult
yes,
to do? Oh.
It took a little bit of work. This is a painting. In Malta, these people had taken a vacation. This was a special photograph they had, and they wanted me to paint it.
Beautiful
so a lot
artwork.
of people that know I sculpt don't know I paint, and people that think of me as a painter don't know I sculpt sometimes. So it's kind of funny. This is the sanctuary before the cave was put in. There's an image of before.
Okay. Interesting.
That is a salamander. It's called a cave salamander, but he lives outside of a cave. There's another salamander that lives, grotto salamander lives inside the cave, and they're albino because they don't need any coloring to protect them. And this is an image of a turtle that, interesting enough, the turtle, you just don't realize how important animals and plants and everything tied together, how it works. But these turtles, if it weren't for them, we wouldn't have Mayapples, which is a wildflower that you see in the spring. The seed of the Mayapple has to go through the turtle to germinate.
To
Isn't that
germinate.
something?
Interesting. Yes, it is.
These are some of the award winners of the Illinois River Salon. We'll talk a little bit more about my painting in just a little bit, but that's an image of the cave. You can see there's a tree that's not quite finished there on the side that I'm still working on, so I'm still adding things. I have a raccoon to add. This is an image of a classroom that came to visit.
Oh, I bet the children love it.
They can go in a tunnel and crawl through it and come back out the other side, so they have a lot of fun. I really don't understand why it's such a big deal to them, but they have such a fun time, and it's delightful to me because I was able to, create
Provide
something
that for them,
for
yes.
years and years, children will not only learn from, but have fun.
I see the little boy in the corner there.
That's a pileated woodpecker I sculpted on the tree. And that's an image of me with a
There you
painting at Crystal Bridges. There was, out of the 70-some paintings that are in this show, there was 26, I believe, that got to go to a one-evening event at Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art. And one of the assistant curators that judged the show. So we'll see that painting
A little bit later.
Yeah. This is a dog memorial. Fargo died, and the owners wanted me to make a little memorial they could place out in the yard where they buried him.
Oh.
And this is the eagle I sculpted, front and back. There are some endangered species sculpted in with this eagle. I was nominated nominated for an award, and I made that eagle to take to Little Rock to show it. And then this is another similar to what I showed before that was here. Wall sculptures. There's the large, medium, and small.
With the gardening theme, the flowers.
This is an installation at the hospice here in Bentonville, actually.
Okay.
On the wall there when they first opened. And this is an installation at the Shoemaker Center for Global Business Development in Bentonville. That is, it's hard to tell how big it is, but there's two of them, and they're 5 feet wide and 3 feet tall.
Oh my goodness.
So there's
Large.
Yes, and it's depicting the studies of that they have, the things that they teach in that building. There's the other one. This is at the community college as well, at the healthcare professionals building. So I'll just flip through these. I think that covers that.
Okay.
Char?
All right. And just mention again, what will gardeners see when they go to Cave Springs if they're
Well,
interested in a tour?
they could take a tour just as long or short as they'd like. They can contact Lauren there.
Okay.
She's the education coordinator. Ask for Lauren, and she'd be glad to show everybody a tour. In the spring, there's the Ozark least trillium that blooms.
Yes, you did
And it's
talk
a
about
rare
that.
species and endangered, so that's a
So
special
a lot of
thing to see.
natural flowers and trees.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they have a identification on a lot of the trees and plants. So they can also see the cave. Can't go in, but you can see
You
it.
can see the cave and see your cave in the church as
Yes.
well. Okay, let's talk about your salon studio art and the painting that you won the prize for.
Okay, this is a painting of the salon. The salon show was sponsored by the Illinois River Watershed Partnership,
Right.
and the Wingate Foundation. And the artists could be from anywhere, but they had to do their painting of a subject in the Illinois River Watershed area. So that was the stipulations for the show, and I'm just very excited and proud to have even gotten my paintings in the show.
And we're proud of you, too.
It was exciting to get a second place. There were 6 second place or merit awards given, along with the best of show, and it's just an outstanding show, and it can be seen in the upstairs gallery at the Learning Center in Cave Springs.
Okay, so we could take a tour of both then. And then tell us about an upcoming event then that's going to happen.
Oh, sure. On November 8th, between 11 and 4, there's a meet and greet the artists. I don't know how many artists will be able to attend because some have, there's from as far away as St. Louis and Kansas City and Tulsa.
Interesting.
But there will be all kinds of events going on besides being able to go to the art show that day and see artists that actually painted there. There'll be all kinds of events going on.
Right, and that would be another social event that we could attend.
Yes,
Okay.
and you can find out more by looking at irwp.org on their website.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for informing us about your artwork, how you're inspired by nature, and everything that's happening at Cave Springs as well. So I appreciated you coming and sharing that with our viewers today. Now, for the second part of our program, we will be having a DVD on daffodil bulbs and how to plant them and get ready for spring bulbs.
Daffodils, those golden heralders of spring. Late fall is the best time of the year to plant your daffodil bulbs. Now, growing up here in Arkansas as a young girl, I remember that anything that bloomed in the month of April and was the color yellow, we called a daffodil. But as I grew up and matured as a gardener, I realized that the words daffodil, jonquil, and narcissus were all used interchangeably to describe the same plant. And many times it depended on what part of the country you were from as to what you called it. So what is the difference between a daffodil, a jonquil, and a narcissus?
The botanical name for the genus is Narcissus. The genus got its name from Greek mythology, where a handsome young man named Narcissus fell in love with his own reflection in a pool of water and drowned as he tried to embrace himself. Legend says that daffodils grew up at the site where he perished, and so the genus was named after him. This is also where we get the word narcissism, which refers to a person who has an inordinate fascination with himself. There are 13 divisions of Narcissus, and each division has special classifications and specific plant information that delineates which class each species falls into. Jonquils fall in class number 7, while daffodils fall in class 13. The major difference between daffodils and jonquils is found in the shape of the leaves. Most people use the term daffodil when referring to the big, showy, trumpet-shaped flowers that we all know and love. Daffodils have long, flat leaves with sword-like tips. Generally, daffodils grow one big blossom on each stalk. And daffodils come in many different colors, from bright yellows to subtle pinks. Jonquils, on the other hand, have dark green leaves that are rounded on the tips. The stems of the jonquils are hollow or reed-like and are usually shorter than daffodil varieties. They tend to have clusters of flowers on the stems and a delicate fragrance. When in doubt, you can always use the term narcissus and you would be correct, even though we usually think of these as the highly scented paperwhites that are typically seen during the holiday season.
Well, I hope we've cleared up some of the differences today between the daffodil, jonquils, and narcissus. For the Benton County Master Gardeners, this is Beth Strickland and Take Root.
As we continue today, Becky and I are going to show you how to plant paperwhites, and we're going to force them for the holiday season. So Becky, do you want to reach in here and get a couple of those out? Now the paperwhites have to be stored, the bulbs, at 40 degrees and for about 12 weeks, and you can do this in your refrigerator, in your garage, anywhere where it's going to be dark and cold. And then after 2 weeks, you can, or 12 weeks, excuse me, you can bring them out, and then they'll start to bloom if you put them in the light and you give them some water. And then you will have these beautiful paperwhites for your holiday season. You can put your planter on the table, on a windowsill, wherever you would like. And as you're planting these, you'll see that the little ends have a tip, and that's the side that should be up. If you're unsure about the side that needs to be up, you can plant it sideways, and the plant will actually turn itself to the right side so that it can bloom. And we're just placing them close together because we'd like our arrangement to look very close together for our table decoration. And we're going to later put a little more soil on these. And of course, I'm going to put them in some cold air so that they will be ready in about 2 to 4 weeks to bloom. Now, the bad thing about these bulbs, once you force them, is that they don't do very well outside after you have forced them indoors. But we also have some other bulbs, and Becky, you had these, and then we'll show this a little bit later.
Yeah, this is really handy because you don't want to just put your bulbs all in a row, straight row.
Right.
So this is nice because you have them all grouped together. It will tell you on the back of the package.
It says this side down, so
Yeah.
you just put them right in the soil, this side down.
And the back tells you how deep to plant them.
And these are 12 crocuses in this package. And what do you have in yours, Becky?
Let's see, this is a grape hyacinth.
Right. And then we also had another package here of some crocuses. Those make beautiful table decorations as well, and if you put them in the cold, they will be fine too. And then we have the ones that you can a bulb you can place in water. Becky's going to show us how to do that. If you have a beautiful vase, you might want to fill it with water. And of course, that would be up to the tip of the root of the bulb. And then we're placing skewers into the side of the bulb. And we're going to place it in the water vase. And then pretty soon, after it's been in the sunlight for a while, it will start to grow right here in the vase, and it will bloom for your holiday season. So there are two ways. If you don't have room on your table and you don't want the dirt, you can have the water and the vase. Okay, that is our demo on our bulbs for today, and thank you, Becky. And I hope that you will visit her website, and it will be on the screen. And also take a trip during this beautiful weather to the Illinois Watershed Project at Cave Springs and take a tour on your own, see the gardens, or take a tour of the cave with the tour guide. And thank you. You're going to be pleasantly surprised.